Started. Thank you all for being here today. We are here to talk about Trinity's abuse prevention and protection training, and this is an annual training that we have every year. So we will review some of the normal stuff that we've had in our policy the past few years, but we also have a few updates that we want to share with you as well. This should be pretty quick, so thank you for all being here. We're going to start with an introduction video. This should look familiar to most of you if you've participated in our trainings before, but it just outlines abuse prevention. We might need sound for that. I don't know.
Did you know child abuse can be prevented? All children need to overcome lots of hurdles in life, but child abuse shouldn't be one of them. If we work together, we can make sure no child needs to face this hurdle.
Instead of just being shocked, let's do something. What we know is connected communities can help prevent child abuse and neglect. We can build stronger communities. We can support families. We can make sure all children have a range of opportunities to play, learn, and grow well. And we can make sure everyone knows how to play their part in building a better future for our children. What are we waiting for? You can make a difference now.
So this training and the policy are really around creating a safe place here at Trinity for children and really connecting our community. So we're gonna go to the next slide, please, and just a brief overview of child abuse definitions. So child abuse is harm or threatened harm to a child's health or welfare that occurs through non-accidental physical or mental injury, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, or maltreatment by the person responsible for the child's care. So abuse can be physical, it can be emotional, and it can be sexual. Physical abuse is bodily harm, such as bruises, welts, cuts, burns. Emotional abuse is more of the put-downs, threats, screaming, blaming, that type of a thing. And then sexual abuse is engaging in sexual contact or penetration with a child as defined by Michigan laws. And I believe that's more outlined in the policy, but for our purposes, we're just doing a brief overview. And then child neglect is also something that happens as well, and that's failure to provide basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, or medical care. So today we're talking about the role of church volunteers in their work with children here at Trinity. So new volunteers, we request that they complete a volunteer application form, and that's something that if you've done in the past, you won't need to do again. But again, if you're new, that's something you will need to complete. And we have copies of those, but we didn't hand them out to everybody because most people are repeat volunteers and have completed one in the past. And then before starting their duties as a volunteer person, they need to receive approval from council. So once you are approved by council, then you can attend and complete the annual training, which is what everybody here is doing today, and then submit to a background check, and that's something that happens annually. So you should have received a background check request form to fill out for that to be completed. We also require that church volunteers present and display appropriate conduct, and in the policy it talks about what is prohibited conduct and what is permitted. So some examples of prohibited conduct include hitting, kicking, slapping, or shoving, extended or inappropriate hugging or embracing, denying somebody access to a room, a vehicle, or another place where a child is present. Those are just some examples. There's a list of 15 of them in the policy that outlines it a little bit more. And then for permitted conduct, there's 3 things outlined in the policy, and that includes showing appropriate Christian love and affection, both verbally and physically. It includes sharing emotional and spiritual concerns with one another, providing necessary medical care and attention to another person, and encouraging another member to appropriately express and share their Christian love. So those are some examples of permitted conduct. Oh, can you go back? Sorry. And then there's also guidelines for talking with people privately. So we understand and know that sometimes if a child is going to disclose abuse, it's most likely going to be in a private conversation. However, private conversations can create high-risk environments for potential abuse to also occur. So it's important to, when we do engage in private conversations, that we take into consideration some different situations to make sure that we're protecting ourselves and our children here at Trinity. So examples of things to kind of think about when you might be having a private conversation with someone is location. You can still have a private conversation in a public location, such as a coffee shop, that kind of a thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be like in church when nobody else is here. Another thing to kind of think about is the necessity. Is the conversation that you're going to have, does it include confidential matters, or is it not really necessary to be alone? And then another thing to think about is relationship. Does the other person have appropriate boundaries, that type of a thing as well. So there's 10 things listed out to kind of think about if you are in a situation where you might be having a private conversation as well, that we ask our volunteers to abide by as well. And then the last thing for church volunteers is to report any suspected or alleged incidences of abuse. Can you go to the next slide, please? So we have a little video to show on what to do when information is disclosed, abuse is disclosed, or potentially.
It's never easy when a young person discloses abuse. There are probably 1,000 things going through your head, from trying to remember your organisation's safeguarding procedure, to asking the right questions, should you be asking questions at all. But no matter how anxious you're feeling, it's worth remembering that most young people only choose to talk to someone they really trust. So chances are you're already doing something right. Whatever the situation, here are a few simple things you can do to create a safe space for a better conversation. Help them open up. For some children, talking about abuse can be scary. You need to show them that you care and that you are listening to what they say. This can be as simple as changing your body language, and avoid anything that can make you seem distracted or distant. Keep your focus on them. They're the most important thing right now. Slow down and take your time. This chat might only be a small part of the disclosure. They could just be testing the water, so let them go at their own pace. Even if the gaps in the conversation feel awkward to you, it's their story. Give them time to tell it. Reflect back and show you understand by simply going through what they've told you already. If possible, use their language. The specific words they use are an important part of their narrative. And although it's easy to jump to conclusions, or even solutions, right now they just need to feel listened to. You can practice these techniques whenever someone's telling you a story, helping them to open up, slowing things down, and reflecting back in everyday conversations. Won't just make you a better listener, but will also prepare you for when a disclosure does happen. It could change a young person's life.
So those are some tips to help you if you are talking with somebody who is disclosing potential abuse. We also have suggestions for responding to a child who is disclosing abuse. This is something that we've had over the last few years as well. And it just kind of gives you some more suggestions or tips, like taking the child seriously. You're not there to determine whether or not they're telling the truth, but don't promise not to tell anyone because you are required to tell somebody per our policy. So these copies will be by the church office if you ever feel like you need to take a look at it. And on the back side, it has different signs of child abuse as well, just to refresh your memory. Next slide, thank you. So when information is disclosed per our policy, if you're a mandated reporter, you need to be calling centralized intake first. And then everybody needs to be reporting the information to the Vice President of Council, who is currently Phil Smulligan. Any allegation of abuse will be taken seriously, and confidentiality will be maintained throughout. And in the printed policies that you received, the page on when information is disclosed portion of the policy is not in your packets. That page accidentally was just not printed. But it is in the actual policy, and we'll make sure that we print out those pages and include them with extra copies of the policy by the office as well. But nothing for this year has changed in relation to what our policy and procedure is when it is as far as information being disclosed. So also, as a reminder, we have safe people here at Trinity, and these people are here to provide support for a child or an individual. They are people who are knowledgeable about where to get expert advice if a child comes to them and is talking to them and maybe disclosing some things that these people know, different community resources that they can refer them to. Safe people are not here to assess the truthfulness of the information, which is the same as all volunteers. If a child discloses something, that's not what our role is. That's what the role is of Children's Protective Services or the police, that kind of a thing. We also will have posters in Trinity Hall and other parts of the church that have the list of who the safe people are here at Trinity. So this year's safe people are Pastor Richard, Gladys Pell, Pat Pell, and Derek DeKruiger. Can you go to the next slide, please? All right, and I'll have Carrie come up to talk about the changes that were made for the youth ministry portion.
Okay, the youth ministry policy. Can you hear me? I have put it over my. Here, I'll hold it. Is that good? Okay. The youth ministry policy. The volunteers must adhere to the Fremont Christian Reformed Church's shared ministry policy. That's for cadets, Oasis, Fish. And we do have copies of the shared ministry policy if anyone would like to review it. A monitor must be present for all youth ministries. So if it's a co-ed event where, like Fish, it's boys and girls, there must be 2 females and 2 male unrelated adults there. Group leaders must provide all list of volunteers annually and when new volunteers are added. 2 or more unrelated adult leaders per group. Parents must sign their child in and out of their specific ministry program. And then after the program, the group leader places the sign in and out documentation in the Safe Church Committee mailbox. Anyone not following the guidelines must be reported to the pastor. All right, this is better. This is our nursery policy. Oh, we can go to the next slide. This is a nursery policy. We're not able to open the nursery at this point, but council has approved installing a TV in there to live stream the services, so if you want to take your child out. But the policy, should we open it, is parents may come into the nursery to drop their child off, but only nursery attendants may stay. Only authorized persons may remove their child from nursery. Nursery attendants are 1 adult volunteer and 1 helper, aged 12 or older, not from the same household. They must inform their partner volunteer of any diaper changes or bathroom assistance they participate in. Ordinarily, a female adult attendant will change diapers or take care of bathroom needs, and the bathroom door is to remain open at all times. For we believe it will be one adult volunteer and one helper aged 12 and older, not from the same household. The group leader must remain in the classroom at all times. The helper will assist the child needing to use the bathroom, find their parents, etc. And the group leader will track attendance, and parents must sign their children in and out during the service. Our Sunday school policy is one adult is permitted to teach a Sunday school class that has at least 2 or more children. The superintendent or someone appointed by the superintendent will serve as monitor during the Sunday school hour. For GEMS, one adult is permitted to teach a GEMS class of 2 or more children, and the GEMS group leader or someone appointed by the group leader will serve as monitor during lesson time. And for transportation, adult transportation volunteers must abide by this policy. All transportation volunteers must have a valid driver's license, and a minimum of 3 people will be in the car at all times.
So that is all we have as the training for this year. Are there any questions? Okay. So if you could please sign out on the training attendance sheet so that you get credit for attending today, and then also complete your background check form, that would be wonderful. And we will have copies of everything by the church office, and this will also be on the website, so if you're talking to anyone who hasn't attended, they can view it that way. Thank you.